Look what I got. This is the second release from Villainy Ink, the tester kit for 7 new enamels, and I'm gonna give this a proper review. First of all, the packaging, I love it. I'm a sucker for this kind of boxes and this beautiful artwork, but also they have a little booklet that comes in the box, and this booklet is great. It shows a little bit of how to use these different enamels, what sort of miniatures they've painted with it, how the effects are, if an enamel dries up glossy or matte or anything like that, how you should use it, how you should thin it. I love it, and I think it's important because these enamels are not that easy to use. They're much harder to use than AK Interactive's Streaking Grime, for example. You need to know how they work, you need to know what the effect is after it dries up, and that's not easy to figure out without a little bit of an explanation. You can also find tutorials on how to use these on the Grimdark Compendium, and I'm sure the guys who make up the Grimdark Compendium are gonna do their own reviews and videos on how to use these enamels. So I would definitely look out for those before you just jump in and use these. But by the time of recording, we don't have those, so I'm just gonna jump in and use these. First things first though, some of these enamels really need very good shaking and they don't come with an agitator. So getting a couple of these steel balls, I would add them to all of them. It is an absolute requirement. Now personally, I am most excited to try Caput Mortem and Umbral Nightshade. This is a dark red and a bluish shade. The blue one especially. I love Drakenhof Nightshade, but the effect just isn't the same as an enamel. And the red one, I think it will go very well with the earlier release of Carrion Crimson, super bright red. And I've used this in almost all of my kit bashes in this year. So I think the combination of these three, I can get some really cool undead skin effects. Now the instructions for Caput Mortem tell you to shake it very well, more than the others, because it has a very thick binding agent, and to use it neat or slightly thinned down. So I'm just gonna use this neat on the skin around the bones of this bat, and I'm gonna see if I can make this nice mottled skin all on the bat wings. That's a pretty neat effect. It's quite transparent, more transparent than I expected, but let's see what happens when I go over it with the Umbral Nightshade, the blue shade, to sort of wash it down, reduce it from the upper edges and push it into the recesses. Look at that, you can get some really nice bruising going off this skin and make it look sickly and bloodless and nasty. Let's just dry this up a little bit and then see if I can add some Carrion Crimson for some nasty blood effects. This is insane. Look at this. This was just Caput Mortem with a little bit of the blue on there dabbed on. I didn't make any real effort and already the effect is amazing. This looks like sickly, nasty skin that could work for an undead bat. But I didn't listen. I didn't follow the instructions properly. Let's put it like that. In the instructions it says that you shouldn't thin these two down too much. Just very lightly, but neat is recommended, and I didn't. I used quite a lot of white spirit, so I get this effect where it pulls and it sort of spreads out and you can get these rings when it dries up. So I'm just going over it again, but now neat and actually following the instructions like I said everybody should be doing. So now a bit of that old Carrion Crimson around the frayed edges to sort of simulate that this thing is hurting. I'm gonna see if I can get some around these holes that he has and just generally make him look like he's in pain. Very cool. I mean, this is just 3 paints on a bone primer. Keep that in mind. This is not a white primer, but a bone primer. And I'm wondering if a white primer would put out the colors a little bit more, make them pop a little bit more and get more contrast, but we'll see. I'm now working with a Vile Tinge Green, which is supposed to be a lighter version of the Goon's Grime that the first set came with. I'm going to use this to reduce the red from the fleshy parts of the bat. I just want to wipe off some of the Carrion Crimson that I put on there and see if I can get a little bit of a greenish yellow tint onto the skin. Now it's really light. As you can see, I use some here on the fur and I use some on the skin. You can barely see it. There is a slight yellow tinting of the skin and it is cool, but in the booklet they say it's a compendium with the Goon's Grime, which I don't think is the right description because this has a little bit of green in it. And Goon's Grime, I like it because it doesn't have that green in it. Streaking Grime has a little bit of green in it. So I think this is much more of a light version of Streaking Grime than it is a light version of Goon's Grime, which is great because it just means more tools. No replacement for already existing enamels, but different enamels that achieve different things. So here I got a skeleton. He was primed white and I used just this Vile Tinge Green on it, and it is very cool. It has this light green effect that you can get if you really water down Streaking Grime a lot, but now you don't need to water it down. It's easier to work with than a Streaking Grime wash because you don't get the pooling and the washing and all of the white spirits that come with a wash of Streaking Grime. It's easier to use and I love it. It's a good additional tool for my toolbox. Now it's time for Decrepit Filth, which according to this booklet will be the clear winner of phase 2. So let's see how it works. And this is supposed to be an all-purpose black wash. And if this works out, man, I would love it. I'm using 2 panel liners washes from AK Interactive that are kind of black, but not exactly. It's for green, gray and blue camo, and an enamel wash for NATO camo vehicles. This is sort of my replacement for a black enamel because I can't find a good dusky matte finish black enamel. So if this works out, oh man, I would love it. So already I can see here that it is black, but it has a little bit of brown in it, which is great, because if I want some colder black, I can mix it with the blue one, what was it called, Umbral Nightshade. So I can have different tints of black. So let's see how this works on the fur and see if I can make this a nasty sort of mottled fur that is dusty and gritty and very dirty. Okay, I think I'm working a bit too quick. I didn't leave the other enamels to dry, so now this is a little bit glossy. But it doesn't matter, I got my backup over here, and here I just painted his armor silver and then went over it with the black wash. And it works out really well. It dries up nice and chalky, nice and matte, and it doesn't leave any of that brown that I saw in the enamel from the cup. So it's really, really good, and I think you can use this for all kinds of things. It's like an all-purpose wash, like they say in a little instruction booklet. I think it's good for barrels, you know, soot on your flamer, but also just grime and dirt if you want something really, really dark. But in the meantime, my little cups of paint have been drying up, which is a good thing with these enamels because there's big chunks of pigment in there. So I'm going fishing for some of these chunks to see if I can get them out of the cup and onto the bat wings again and get some more variation going on there and make it a little less smooth than it is now. Enamel number 5 is Blighted Bone Ochre, and in the booklet they say it's supposed to be a sort of general purpose filter, a yellow tint on anything you want kind of yellow, but the name has the word bone in it, so I'm going to use it for bones on my little skeleton dude over here. And let's see how this works out. Yeah, that looks like bone to me. I think it's a good one. It's good for Seraphim Sepia replacement, but something that just dries up a little matte. Seraphim Sepia always has a little bit of a gloss satin finish. I think it looks good. It is subtle, which is good as well, because then you can use other washes and grime to make your bones look a bit older. But I like it. I like the effect. I also think it can work a little bit as a rust effect. As you can see, I hit the plate over here, tints it slightly yellow, gives a little hint of rust. And speaking of rust, I've got here Ex Machina. Now there's a story behind Ex Machina, because in the phase 1 they also have a rust which is called Sector Rust. And initially when they released Sector Rust, it had the same formula that Ex Machina has now. So Sector Rust, if you got the very first version, was this light. Now Sector Rust is this dark rust. So I thought it sounds a bit confusing, but yeah, apparently they didn't want to change the name. They changed the formula and then they brought something back with the same name as the original, or the same formula as the original. I don't know, I don't care. There's a light rust and there's a dark rust. So let's do this Ex Machina first. All right, yeah, that is rust. It is light, it is very orange, and it's also not covering very well. You're gonna need a couple of layers. This is already 2 layers over here and you can still see the silver shine through. You're gonna need a couple of layers to get a good rust effect going, or you can use this to just get a little bit of rust in the nooks and crannies of a lasgun, for example. Something that's not supposed to be completely rusted through. But let me put some of this Sector Rust next to it. Yeah, it's subtle. There is difference between the two, but this is the Sector Rust and that is the new one. What's it called? Ex Machina. Sector Rust has more of this dark reddish color. It reminds me a lot of my dark crusted rust deposits from AK Interactive, while the other one, the Ex Machina, is more the medium or the light. I don't think there is enough difference between the two. I think the light one needs to be lighter or the dark one needs to be darker. Right now it's just too close to each other, and for my paint style there's just not enough difference between the two. So the 7th and final enamel is All is Dust, and as the name implies, it is a dust effect. So it dries up matte and it dries up chalky. So let's see if I can get some dust here onto the fur of my little bat. And they say in the booklet that it's good for desaturating some of the bright acrylics and so on. But I always find this dust effect to be very hard to use. They've got something like this called Decay of Death in their first release. And I have decay deposits from AK Interactive. It's hard to use, it always stands out screaming, but maybe this is different. This is very white and very light, and let's see if it works to sort of desaturate some of the blood maybe around his mouth. I'll see if I can find a mini that I can use this on. Okay, I got this Necron, an old one that I painted a long time ago, and I used a lot of the All Is Dust on the base, and it gets a little bit of that pigment powder feel. I put a lot here and there, and then a little bit less everywhere on his arms. And yeah, this is white on black, so it shows up very clearly. You can see here, it's a pretty good effect. It's a pretty cool effect. I used it on this shield. I don't know if you can see this really well, but it has this sort of light gray dusting. Now, I like it. It does what it says on the tin, but I'm used to pigment powders. So this effect here, this powdery, dusty effect, that's just a white pigment powder, and it's much easier to use. Pigment powders are super simple. You don't have to mix them, you don't have to dilute them, you don't have to direct the dust to go in the right direction. You don't have this issue where it sort of stays on the upper ridges of a miniature. It just goes into the recesses much easier, and what doesn't go in there, you can just brush it off. So I think it might be good to get into places where you can't get with pigment powder, or if you want to work very accurately. Now, pigment powder, it's dust, so it goes everywhere if you're using it, and especially my painting style, which is a bit slapdash. So I think there is utility here, but I don't know if I would use it. So overall, I'm really happy with this set because it does a little bit of everything. First, I got 3 workhorses. The Decrepit Filth, the black one, the Blighted Ochre for bone, and the Vile Tinge green. I think I'm gonna use these on almost every miniature I paint. The black is fantastic for good recess wars, the bone for all of the skulls and bits and pieces that hang off my miniature, and the green, I think it's a little sleeper hit. I had the lighter version of Streaking Grime. I think it can do a lot. I have a pot of Streaking Grime here, but I already have it diluted 1-to-1 with White Spirits because I think the Streaking Grime by itself is too strong, and I think this might be a great solution. Now there's 2 that I really look forward to using. That's the Caput, Mortem and the Umbral Nightshade. That's what I painted these bat wings with, and really, you gotta see it. It's so simple. This is literally only the 2 paints and a little bit of the Carrion Crimson on the edges. If I start adding Colia Green shade from the first release, and maybe a little bit of the Decrepit Filth and a little bit of but browns and some yellows, you can make some nasty sickly skin. Great for undead, great for Trench Crusade, but also great for these demon princes that I have lying here. So I think these I won't use on every miniature, but they are perfect for those little effects. And then we come to the last 2, Ex Machina and All Is Dust. I don't think they do anything that I can't do with anything else. I don't think they have any special features or any good looks that make me say, okay, I need to buy this particular rust or this particular dust. I can get something similar with stuff I have already. The dust, I'd rather use pigment powders. The rust, I'm a big fan of Dirty Down Rust, and I'm a big fan of the AK Interactive variation in rust because there's more difference between the different kinds of rust. This, together with the other one, the Sector Rust, I don't see the point in having these 2 in my collection. I'd rather just get one, and if I need to pick one, I'd go for Sector Rust. But apparently Ex Machina was very popular with the customers, the fans of the Grimdark Compendium, so that's why they made this. So I'm really happy with this. If you want to see me use those paints on something bigger than just the bat and something that takes a little bit more effort and a little bit, I don't know, more time, you've got to subscribe, because these are my 2 latest demon princes, and I'm going to paint them with a lot of these enamels. In the meantime, you can see a lot of work in progress on the Discord. So maybe check that out and check out this next video as well.